Okay, so we tried to set up a front-end social code base for contribution yesterday, and we had some errors, some issues. So hopefully that's resolved. Now I'll show you how you can set up a repo for individual contribution for your open source contribution. So let's start here. First, what I'll do is uh, I'll delete the existing projects that I already copied on my system, because we need a forked version rather than the direct repo, because we can't push directly to the original repo, but we'll push to the forked version. So meanwhile this happens, we'll just go to Frontend Social GitHub repo. Right, clone, right, copy. Just one second, I'll also copy the backend. So yeah, this one is. So I'll just bookmark this backend API so I can reach faster next time. Backend API. GitHub. Right. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Yeah. I think those folders are deleted now. So what I'll do is clone. We'll clone this for local. Just one second. Okay. Right. So this one is the original repo. So what we'll do is we'll fork this. Okay, I have already forked that, so we need to fork. Okay, and then clone. So this one is cloning. So what we'll do is we'll also fork the backend API, backend repo, and fork. Okay, it's already forked. So I'll just go there, clone. Right. The reason you need to fork is because you don't have access. You usually, whenever you're contributing to open source code, you don't have access to the original or main repo. So what you do is create a copy of it, and you create a pull request. We'll see how to do that. So I'll just go to the folder Frontend Social, right, and I'll just install all the dependencies, and we'll also do that for the backend repo. Yeah, yeah. So, so meanwhile we'll just wait till all the dependencies are installed. I'll just increase this font. We'll also install. installed pretty fast. I don't know. What else? Yeah. So I had already installed all of the dependencies yesterday. So okay. Good. Version of yeah. Social API. So this is the open the code base. We'll just remove this because the original repo uses package log package log file. So package log file and yarn log file is so yarn created its own package log file which will create a list of dependencies. Frontend social will just okay. What do I need to do here? Right. Okay. So I'll switch the branch. I think they all have only like master. Okay. So we'll pick up a issue from this. I think it should be here. From here. Yeah. So these are all the list of issues uh, that you can work on this repo. So I'll just pick one. Okay. Meanwhile, we'll just start. Mm, can start node server. I'm not sure. Like, do you need node server for this? A view CLI should have, right? So the correct command should be npm runs because this project uses the view CLI. You want to use node server where you are on production. You are already optimized for the production. You have created build files and everything. You don't need to do that for local development. Okay, so there are a lot of warnings. We'll also probably fix these, but later. What I'll do is also add a new issue here to uh, fix CLI warnings. Right. So these are the list of all issues need to create it. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll okay. So this is running on 8080. Okay. Time zone requires movement. Yes. And property reads plate of undefined. Continue. This was working fine. Straight to it. Weird. Okay, webpack required. Where does it this uses movement? Okay. Package log file has okay. This has movement time zone. So okay. Movement time zone. I think they have just added this recently. So what I'll do is I'll add this manually in the project. It shouldn't be ideal, but yeah, add movement. What is it? Yeah, movement. So this error says like this library movement time zone requires movement JS, and I don't think who added that view movement. Hmm. Uh, movement npm. This was the name. Npm install movement, right? So yeah, add movement. So I'm manually adding that. So there is this again. Let's open the backend code base, and there are instructions here that you need to rename this environment file to environment. Yeah, and we also need to change this. This is just for. I don't think we need to do that. Cannot read property. We'll just fix that. Okay, one second. Copy. Uh, when times. I'll just type that out. So it says movement time zone requires movement. Okay, this one is the time zone. Not sure if I'm on the right branch. Yeah, .tv is not functional. If you're using, you can actually use it. I don't think that's the issue. Requires movement. JS, yeah. Try to use it to use movement need to movement time zone data. Movement 2.9.0. Moment. What's the version? Yeah, this actually it's more latest version, and at the moment data recommended process. Is this because We're not running a backend server. Uh, let's see. I'll just add this temporary URL, MongoDB URL that will point to a uh, shit. I'll just hold that. Yeah, this one. Uh, okay, start server successfully connected to the database. Mm, can't really figure this one out. What is split of file defined? File required. Okay, required is browser moment. We need to change something in the blue config. Change webpack. Okay, I think this is gonna take a while to figure this out issue. While meanwhile, the issue that I wanted to work on, it doesn't need to, so I don't need to run the app locally. So it's just a documentation update and some code base update. So we'll just because I can't for one figure this out like what's so for so I think inside the webpack config you need to import that. That's what I can get can from this. Uh, right. So the one issue that need to work on it doesn't need any changes or anything. So I'll just close this, close this, close this, close this. We don't need this, we don't need this. This one, CLR warning, right? That's from social login. Move all keys in code base to environment variables, right? Yeah. I think I'll just pick more. Use GitHub login for testing, update redo. Right. So preview here. One preview to the side. Okay, right. So I need to add customization configuration. Uh, then install Frontend Social. Then build developers. So I'll just add this here because this one is more important. Use GitHub login for frontend. So GitHub for local development. Uh, Phrase in a better way. Their instructions. Local development instruction. Local development, or you can say warning hint. Mm, local layout, you'll just see what so what I need to do here is use GitHub to log in for local development on the front end app, right? Because uh, other social login providers for Facebook, the Twitter login and others are not working yet. And for Facebook, you need to add each and every developer as a test user to your app. So, but GitHub doesn't do that. So, for if you want to log in to the repo on a local, so here you can see right. Uh, Social, right. So I'll just log out, sign out. So if you want to log in this on local for the local development, uh, use GitHub and right. So I have added this instruction and will commit this code. Update readme. So I'll add a commit message. Update readme with the GitHub login instruction. That's okay. One second. So instead of creating whenever you raise a PR or anything, you're supposed to create a new branch. So we're basing a branch on master branch name date readme GitHub, and I'll commit this change to this branch update readme GitHub. And what we'll do is we'll push that. So this pushes this branch update readme GitHub to my fork version, and from there we'll create a PR to the original repo. So right, okay, so this one is yeah. See, you can see that okay. This is a new branch, and we'll do is compare and pull request. Right, so this is the right. So this is our base repository. We'll are raising a PR that okay. So this one is my fork version, but merge this code into this base repository that is Shunatech front end social from my fork version. With this, compare update readme GitHub branch and able to merge. This says okay, it doesn't have any code conflicts or anything, and I'll just create a pull request. Right. So I'll also do here is So it's a good thing that you can so we'll link this PR with the related issue. So yeah, this is okay. This one is so you can track the progress on your issues. Like if anyone done that, I think you can also refer in that the PR, but I don't know how to do that on GitHub. On the labels or something, you can do that, right? On the linked issues. Uh, GitHub, right? Yeah, yeah. So that's the right. So I've created this PR, but I have contributor access to this GitHub repo, but you probably won't. So I can just push that this merge pull request, but you won't have access to it. Uh, so uh, so yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. So the original, what do you say? Developers who are working on this, that they can see your PR, they get a notification, they review the code, and they'll pull, and then you need to pull all those. So it will be pulled into the master branch, and you'll need to fetch those changes on your local, either by using a git pull or doing a rebase. But this is probably about a basic on how you can raise a PR and contribute to a open source repo. Uh, hmm. I'll just pause for a minute and then we'll work on the second issue. Issues, fix CLI warnings. We'll work on this. We'll probably work on this fixing this moment just error. But I'll just take a pause for